Hello, welcome to the Coffee with M's podcast. Hi, Maggie.
Hello.
Thank you for
Hi. Thank you
joining
for
me.
having
Really
me.
excited to speak to you. Thank you. So, Maggie is a HR specialist, ex Amazon, Mighty, and please introduce yourself. Over to you, Maggie.
Yes, no, first of all, thank you very much for having me. And I'm Maggie Sierko. I'm a founder and owner of the Lighthouse HR. But let me take you a little bit back as to how my professional journey began. So, my HR journey began 20 plus years ago. Um, at IKEA, I worked for IKEA for about 7 years, and majority of that time I was busy opening new IKEA stores across the UK. I then worked for a company no longer existing, which is Phones for You. I looked in both sort of generalist HR capacity and specialist role. And then I moved on, as you've mentioned, to Mighty Group. Mighty is a facilities management business, and I worked my way up there to the UK head of HR. However, the past 7 and a bit years, I've spent my time in various senior roles at Amazon, where I looked after a number of fulfillment centers, and then later on looked after customer services part of the business across Europe, including UK and a few other countries. Um, Earlier this year, I've left Amazon to go on my own to set up a Lighthouse HR consultancy, and that's where sort of my journey as a consultant has started.
Yeah, fantastic. Obviously, you work for big organizations, enterprise scale operations. So yeah, thank you. It's interesting to speak with you. What do you think inspired you to get into the field, that you're in? And what do you think keeps you passionate about the work that you do as well?
So I probably should say people, right? As it's a HR function,
Yeah.
and there is an I'm laughing because there is an element of that,
Mm.
including sort of the psychology of human behavior as both as individual and as teams, resolving complex changes, unpicking blockers to organizational performance, and generally looking after usually the biggest and often the costliest asset that is people. So
Mm.
when I'm saying people is what brought me to this career is in the most broadest sense. I think
Mm.
we're such a complex creatures, and how we act, how we behave individually versus how we behave in a team or in a larger organizational context is really interesting.
Mm.
um, and how we can empower that resource, for a better word, to propel the organizational forward is amazing, and I love seeing that.
Can hear that. That's fascinating. Yeah, that's really like drives your passion, that that behavioural science behind it. Yeah, no, I love that. Thank you. Looking back on your career, was there a defining moment at all, would you say, or sort of a major turning point? Um,
There were definitely two that sort of spring
mm,
to my mind straight away. So I've joined IKEA at the very start of my professional career, straight from uni into sort of what you may call a graduate program back in
yeah.
Poland. Then I moved to the launch team that's responsibility was to open a new IKEA stores in the UK. So moving the country, whilst it was through the relocation of within the same organization, that was a pivotal moment, as it was the country I haven't visited before. It was at the very start of my professional career, and being sort of open to all the new experiences, new legislation, new language, was fantastic, and that was definitely a pivotal moment for me. And I think the second one was leaving the security of corporate permanent employment
Yes.
earlier this year and going on my own.
Yeah.
I think I've underestimated the mindset change, the
Mm.
mindset of an employee, no matter
Mm.
how senior you are in your role and how much autonomy you have, is very different to the mindset of a business owner. And I think that was another sort of a moment in time for me, almost starting even a way of thinking that is different to the one that I had before
Yeah.
over my career.
How is that different? Just if you elaborate on that, like what has been the mindset shift, would you say? Yeah.
It's even to the minutiae details of, as an employee, you always have your pipeline filled up to the point that you're always busy. You don't need to think where is the next piece of work is coming from, right? Because you're probably your
It's
boss
going.
or
Yeah.
whoever is
Mm.
is throwing things your way already, or you see things need doing, because you know your organization, you know exactly the structure, you know where the direction of travel is. When you're your business owner, you might be busy with hospitality sector and trying to get your head around hospitality and how business is operating in that space. But in next month you might be doing a piece of work, or even in the same week as a fractional, for a retail business that operates differently, and it might be a luxury brand versus a value brand. So it's wearing many hats as well,
Yeah, different
because it's
hats.
not
Yeah.
always, exactly, it's not always about how good you are in doing, in delivering what you selling or what you're offering, but actually you need to then learn how to run a business, how to run sales, marketing, finance. You need to be best friends with HMRC and and
Yeah.
and your
It's all new
accountant.
stuff to learn, isn't it? It's yeah.
Absolutely. Where things like even your, I don't know, pension contributions and thing, or tax, that was never on your mind
Never have
in
to worry about it,
employment.
yeah, but then it's like all of a sudden it's all these things, isn't it? Yeah. No,
That's
that's
exactly.
fantastic. Thank you. And obviously you've been involved in some incredible projects. Were there any in particular which stood out to you as to perhaps the ones that you enjoyed working on the most or had the most impact with on the most?
Yes, they were. Oh, there are quite a few. I was
Yeah.
lucky enough throughout my career to work in a very dynamic businesses where change was something part of the norm. Um, but the two sort of projects that spring to my mind, the first one was with IKEA and opening a new store in Milton Keynes. So the first one I supported was Edmonton in at the start of 2005. So 21 years ago. And then we moved very quickly to Milton Keynes, um, because the opening was at a very short time scale. So when I arrived in Milton Keynes, there was literally a field. There wasn't even
Yeah.
a store, and
Mm.
as it was taking shape, um, uh, I needed to fill that store with employees from
Wow. Yeah.
checkout employees to HR employees to everybody in between, and a senior management, um, for the opening in 3 months, less than 3 months time was the time, the deadline. And it was amazingly dynamic, but it was such a camaraderie, that the moment I've appointed managers will then get busy to appoint the teams, and I was able to engage some agency staff to help me with the interviews, to help me with the volume hiring, and so on. And so it was from literally an employment contract and a handbook to then um, customers in store, where we were able to move into another project. Um, and it's amazing how
Yeah.
actually change like that um, fuels enthusiasm, fuels energy, and
Yeah, because you
actually,
think 3 months is not a long time, is it? But actually, like,
yeah,
you saw the momentum happen, and it all sort of happened and cascaded and yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that was fantastic. And another project was at Amazon, where I was responsible for moving all Amazon fulfillment centers, and there were 28 of them at the time, from agency hiring to
Yeah.
direct hiring. So we were
Ooh.
using agencies to nearly triple, in some cases, triple the headcount for peak or for prime week. So peak, we mean from November till the beginning of January, and then going back to our normal permanent headcount. And we had agency on site, agency managers managing agency employees, which presented a lot of challenges, not only on the cost side, but also on the fact that we were not fully in control of what experience those employees, um, agency employees, will have, because they were not Amazonians per se, but that also had an impact on how Amazon was viewed as an employer, because
Mm.
those people will then associate that they worked for Amazon, not for agency, if that makes
I
sense.
see.
So it was
Mentality. Yeah.
definitely the right move. And looking back now, even talking to to my ex colleagues, they all saying that it was definitely the right move to go to direct hiring.
Mm.
And after it was successful in the UK, it was rolled out globally, and also it was rolled out to other business lines, like our sortation centers and so on. So it was definitely a very successful
Mm.
project, but very complex as well
Change
as
change management there as well, isn't there? Sort of internally creating that structure and
and
operation. So,
flexibility. Yes,
yeah.
because we
And we
needed that flexibility as well as what agency was providing.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you. We talked about AI as well, which really interests me. And you mentioned that there's been some AI sort of led initiatives. And I thought this might be quite interesting for people listening to hear about some of those, yeah, some of those AI initiatives that you've perhaps utilised. If you could tell us about those and the impact that they had. Mm.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In here, I'll focus on Amazon, um, because that's obviously most recent, and that's where the whole AI revolution is happening as well. And Amazon is at the head of many of those changes with the AWS business, so Amazon Web Services.
Mm.
So a lot of work was and is still going on into reviewing which tasks will be taken away from which roles, and
Mm.
what skills we or experience or tools we need to develop in
Mm.
next year, 2 years, 3 years time. So for those roles to provide value to the business, we need to, and there are projects in nearly every function, um, looking at which tasks will be taken by AI, the reporting, the administrative tasks, the compliance stuff, in order to focus on, okay, so what skills we need to develop. Do we have them? Do we need to acquire them? Do we need to develop them internally? What tools we will need in the future, to drive the business forward and to add value while still having some of the tasks taken by AI. Um, and this will differ next year, in 2 years time, and 3 years time, as the AI develops, and there is no stopping it from developing, right? There is
Yeah.
no,
Mm.
we know it's not going to go back. um, but so
It's
those
really
plans,
exciting. Yeah.
sorry.
Because it's really exciting, isn't it? The what
It
it can
is.
do. But I wondered, your thoughts on whether that is going to impact the number of people that would be hired, or do you think it will massively affect and replace jobs? I mean, it's been in the news recently, or is it more of a case of that it provides better efficiency within the team?
Yes, you're absolutely right to point that out. So I think for now, will that reduce jobs overall? It's difficult to say, because the jobs will change. So when we had in the past any big developments of having cars rather than horse-drawn carts, right? People think,
Mm.
well, what about all the people that work with in that industry? What will happen? And the same with the revolution in terms of factories and so on in Victorian times. That doesn't mean that the jobs won't be there. They will be different. So
Uh,
some roles will change, um, but they remain. The task that they perform will differ,
mm.
but there will be some roles that will be in its entirety replaced by AI. But there will be different roles that we need to prepare the workforce
Create roles,
for.
isn't it? It's going to develop new positions within AI, and
That's
that's
exactly
already
that.
more than the people that it will replace. Would you say possibly? It's
That
difficult to
that's
tell.
exactly that. And I
Mm.
think for now, and again, it develops so quickly, it's difficult to predict.
Mm.
Hence any plans need to reflect that, and they need to be flexible enough to respond in for any new developments. But at the moment, AI isn't yet asking as back questions. It's regurgitating what the information's are out there. So where at the moment the people's strengths are, and we can go into that in a second as well, that are we asking the AI the right questions? It won't necessarily point at the blind spots for us.
Mm,
It will just summarize things. It will reflect back what's already out there. But I think that's why I think our roles will change. They
mm.
just be different, and in that transition is exciting, but it needs to be done in a way that we don't necessarily fear it, but we're getting ready for it.
Yeah, it's like getting ready for it, isn't it? And I think
Yeah.
that's been clear, like from what you talked about, that adaptability and embracing it, isn't it? And looking at how you can utilize it. So, okay, no, that's great. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, I mean, obviously AI is influencing the way that businesses operate. Um, so yeah, obviously we talked about that already, haven't we? That kind of like that efficiency, that operational side of it.
Yes, but
Mm,
I think I can maybe zoom in here on a HR in particular, because uh, I think HR is particularly vulnerable as a function
yeah.
um, to AI, as a lot of our work in the past was compliance based or admin based or reporting based. However, the value that HR will now need to dial up on is change. So taking people through a change,
Mm.
culture transformation, but most, I think, importantly, leadership skills, those soft skills that often for the years were a bit neglected in terms of development. And a lot of, if in the past we had any market constraints, the often you would see businesses shaving off the budget from L&D and those functions, where those soft skills, I think, will be very important.
Even more so,
Um,
yeah, because that's something that AI can't do, isn't it? You know, those soft skills, those
exactly,
human skills. So that's what we can strengthen. Um,
exactly that. And I think HR need to lead on this, because we no longer can hide behind transactional work, where in the
mm,
past we were busy because we were doing contract, handbook, policies, procedures, right? Making sure people get paid properly, making sure we've got right to works correctly. All that can be automated, and it and it
mm.
and it already is in most of the businesses.
That automation side, yeah, exactly. So they can't hide behind that anymore. Yeah, the people skills are obviously really important. Okay, and you work closely with HR and people teams.
Yes.
What changes are you noticing in how technology is shaping the employee experience?
Mhm.
So that sort of internal communications, cultural piece.
Um,
Mm,
I must say it is already and will continue revolutionize entire employee cycle. AI will. So how we recruit, how we assess performance, how we spot talent, how we develop people, how we change structures. Entire employee cycle will be um, affected, or will transform. And I think it's because also people's behaviors and expectations in relation to work are changing as well. When it used to be that it needed to be a face-to-face engagement, whatever that was, a customer to the business or employee to the employer, now more and more people want to opt for self-service, which is no longer viewed as negative. So employees being able to self-serve themselves in terms of booking holidays, or checking and changing their rotas, and doing things themselves, rather than going and they need to ask a manager. Um, we used to perceive that in a negative light, to say that we're losing touch, etc. But the new generation of employees want that
yeah,
independence, a
in
bit
their own
like
time,
customers.
one app. Yeah.
Exactly that. Like customers
Mm,
shopping at Amazon, they want to have a one-click purchase, so it's quick and no fuss. And it's the same with customer service, where I looked after customer service at Amazon. It was evident how we saw that people actually didn't opt for speaking to an employee if they could resolve it themselves in a quick
mm,
succession with a bot. That was the percentage of those queries being resolved that way grew exponentially. And I think it's we have obviously aging population in the UK and across the world, so we need to balance it. But more and more we see the shift of that self-service being there quite predominantly, and how we then
Effective,
deliver that.
people actually utilise that a lot more than an older, perhaps other methods that were used before. Okay, and from a leadership perspective, what do you think is most important when it comes to leading through change and innovation? That change management obviously is quite a challenging piece. So, is there anything in particular that you find is quite important to bear in mind when you're doing
Yes,
that?
I think it's transparency.
Hmm.
Transparency on why we doing what we're doing, why we changing, why we transforming, why we growing, whatever it is that we doing, even why the purpose of the organization itself.
Hmm.
So transparency on why, transparency on how we going to get there.
Yeah.
We thinking, and how this will impact, so the people want to know what does it mean for me.
Hmm.
um, but also transparency on why not, w- why we haven't gone that way, why we not going to do X, Y, and Z. We've considered it, and this is why we can't do it, or we won't be able to do it, or we've decided that out of the options that we've considered is this one, and why not the other ones.
Hmm.
People now want to understand, want to have feel that they trust, they will put where there is a transparency, where there is a clarity, where people at the top are held accountable for for what they need to deliver in the same way that those people in other parts of the business. So I think that transparency and fairness
Yeah,
will play
not
a
just
big role.
doing it, it's actually like, showing the people, the research behind it, why it's happening, how it's going to benefit them. So they're less defensive and come up with less questions because they've understood it better. And no, that's really cool. Thank you. Okay. And what advice would you give to professionals looking to progress their careers in such a fast evolving space? How do you keep up with it all? Hmm.
You don't, you just
Yeah.
you're going with your gut instinct. But I
Yeah.
think it's to dial up on all those traits like flexibility. So
Mm.
embrace change. Don't think that change is something to fear, something to resist. um, be very open about it. Don't see it as negative but as a growth. And often I even encourage people um, around me to, rather than call it a change, let's say it's a transition to growth or growth.
Oh, that's
Because
really cool. A different way of looking at it, isn't it? Different perspective, because it can be quite stereotypical, can't it? But it's kind of like changing the mindset of it, isn't it?
exactly that, and often we change to grow, right, whatever that means, because the growth isn't necessarily to acquire a new business, or bigger market share. Growth can mean very different things in very different scenarios. So and being leaner, it's also growth, because we then future proofing ourselves and making sure that we more flexible. So yeah, absolutely, just there is the mindset,
Mm,
the mindset of willingness to learn, and just be brave, go for it attitude.
yeah,
And I think it's that old chestnut of attitude that rules everything, because we
mm,
can have the same person that loves crosswords, sudokus, things like that. But if you ask them to resolve a different challenge that's just presented slightly differently, or even your tax return, or something like that,
yeah.
they absolutely are against it, and they struggle.
Feels like
But
we're
it's
just
the same parts
mm,
of the brains that we the brain that we use to resolve those puzzles. It's just the attitude to, I'm doing this for pleasure because I like it, and this because I have to, that
yeah.
dictates sometimes
That
the
attitude is
result.
really key. It does make me realize actually that those values that you just mentioned there are becoming even more important now when it comes to recruitment and when you're actually interviewing for people for teams because of the fast evolving landscape of things, and that actually we need to make sure that we find people and people that can adapt and have a good attitude to learning new things. Do you feel like perhaps that these become more important now with things changing more often? Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the new workforce that is coming at the moment to entering sort of the workplaces, we can already see the very different attitude to change, to the workforce that been there and done it, right? So we've got still a lot to learn
It's
from
definitely
the
to be
newcomers.
mindful of if you're interviewing for a new position, especially from a candidate perspective, because this is what employees are going to be, employers, sorry, are going to be looking out for, isn't it, in people? And if they're talking about, the reason why they're left or leaving their current role is because they didn't like the changes, that doesn't always go down so well, because businesses are always changing, aren't they? So being mindful of that. And obviously with your new business, it's really exciting. So explain to us a little bit more about the business and perhaps some of the projects that you've got coming up. Mm.
Yeah, so super excited about my Lighthouse HR. Um, it is something that I've put heart and soul into. At the moment, I'm supporting Travelodge through the growth and transformation, and I thoroughly enjoy it. I love giving a helping hand to other businesses by implementing often the experience and the blueprints that I've delivered in the throughout my careers at IKEA or Amazon, and there are always some nuggets that other businesses can borrow and make their own. It's not about copying and pasting. It's about really understanding the what makes those businesses successful and what can we adopt, and I really enjoy learning about the new business, understanding their priorities and how I can support them. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
love
we
that.
were talking about where your experience lies within the HR industry, and the types of clients that you're going to be looking for and working with your business is more the enterprise, like larger scale operations, isn't it? That's where your expertise comes in.
Yes. Yeah,
Mm.
it is medium to large organizations rather than your SMEs, only because um, SMEs are focused on compliance, so they want to make sure that when they employ the first employee or the 10th employee, that they are covered in terms of compliance, contracts, right, policies, procedures. Where I come in is often for the businesses that already have a small HR team that looks after that, but they are ready to grow, ready to expand, maybe to the new markets, maybe to the markets outside of the UK, because that's where my strength is of establishing in new countries, like I did with Amazon, and and sort of helping them accelerate where they want to be. So
You do
yeah,
that on a consultative basis for X amount of time, depending on what's needed to get that all set up and that operation running. And that's really interesting. Thank you. And how do people get in contact with you, Maggie? Obviously, I know you're on LinkedIn. But what's the best way to reach you?
yes, it's anyone can reach me in two ways. Either on LinkedIn at Maggie Sierko, or through my website, which is lighthousehr. .co.uk, and absolutely I'm always open in terms of even a discussion, a cup of tea, or even just a exchange of ideas, because there are two streams to my business, to the
Yeah.
consultancy.
Yeah.
One is I support businesses through fractional or project-based support, but also HR professionals themselves with any projects they may be struggling. So they can reach out to me, and we can do it on one-on-one, where I'm the tutor slash mentor slash coach, where I will help them, but with the not like a general coach, but actually with a hands-on support by drafting communications, going through the processes to ensure they are watertight, because I know how hard it is when you're sometimes on your own in a business, and you need to deliver a project like a redundancy or complex change that you haven't done before, um, and I'm more than happy to
Yeah,
pass on the
support that
knowledge.
one-on-one support. Yeah. Well, certainly the security industry is growing, and the many businesses that are reaching that point perhaps where they do need need your support. So
Yeah,
thank you so much. That's been really
thank
interesting
you.
to speak with you. And all the best with everything. And yeah, keep in touch, won't you?
I definitely will. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for having me again.
So welcome. Okay, speak to you soon.
Speak
Thanks,
to you soon.
Maggie.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.